UBC, inspiring Uganda.
A new dawn on Behind the Headlines with me, Timothy Nyangweso. Every Wednesday, live in our studios in the heart of Kampala, we have conversations that have analysis, explanation, but not every truth is fact, and not every fact is truth. Every Wednesday, 10 p.m. on your public broadcaster.
On your public broadcaster, UBC, inspiring Uganda.
The biggest pain to any business, any small, medium enterprise is capital. Affordable and access. Those are the two problems that they have. Can Islamic banking be the silver bullet, or will it be the straw that broke the camel's back? Banking has gone through a transformation from where we had passes where you sign your money and deposit your money, for where brick and mortar you had to. Good evening and welcome to Behind the Headlines. My name is Timothy Nyangweso. The biggest pain for any small and medium enterprise is capital, access and affordability. Those are the biggest pains. The question is Islamic banking the silver bullet, or will it be the camel that broke the back? Banking as a sector has gone through a revolution for quite a while, from where passes were signed to a point where we have digital, or we're getting into a cashless economy. Can Islamic banking catch up? Or will conventional banking be able to keep up with Islamic banking? When we talk about interest and profit, what are the two there? We want to understand Islamic banking and be able to access this money for all of us. With trillions of dollars available both in assets and financing, Islamic banking the solution? With the change in amendment in 2016, 6 amendments were put there, only 4 were passed. The question is, even as Islamic banking has got its license to be able to operate in the next 12 months, will traders, will Ugandans be able to access this money? Let's meet the panel.
الذي لا يضر مع اسمه شيء في الأرض ولا في السماء.
On September 8th, 2023, the Bank of Uganda granted its inaugural Islamic banking license. Salam Bank Uganda, a subsidiary of a Djibouti-based institution, received this license at the Central Bank's headquarters from Deputy Governor Michael Atingi Ego. In June, the Ugandan Parliament enacted legislation to authorize Islamic banking, which President Yoweri Museveni ratified into law in August. This legislation eliminated the need for establishing a Central Sharia Advisory Council, a point of contention with the Bank of Uganda. This week on Behind the Headlines, we delve into the financial ramifications that the Islamic banking will bring, exploring who stands to benefit and how. Join Timothy Nyangweso along with a panel of experts, legislation, banking and financial matters. Let's meet our panel. Dr. Rujia Sulaiman, a seasoned banker, Sharia advisor and auditor with over a decade of experience in practicing and teaching Islamic finance, Sharia and banking. He has actively contributed to the process of amending Uganda's legal framework to accommodate Islamic finance and has collaborated with government bodies, NGOs and private sector in developing the Islamic finance system in Uganda. Michael Mande, the visionary force behind the Islamic banking in Uganda and the managing director of Salam Bank. Mr. Chambade, a distinguished tax lawyer and partner of Godin Associates, possessing deep expertise in banking. Honorable Marapol, an ardent economist, drawing from extensive experience in banking sector and currently serving in Parliament. And our very own indomitable Professor Sarah Sari, hailing from the academia, a versatile mind in social sciences and a dedicated researcher. Be part of the conversation on your public broadcaster, UBC, Inspiring Uganda.
You have met the panel, so now we're going to be digging our heels to understand exactly what does Islamic banking mean and what does it meet as the needs of ordinary Ugandans. You can be part of the show. Go to our Twitter handle, #UBC Behind the Headlines, or go to our YouTube channel. Let us know what you think, or text us or WhatsApp us on the number 0709 60 92 25. Let us know what you think, then we'll be able to get into that conversation. Lady and gentlemen, you're very welcome. It's good to have you, Honorable Mara. It's been a while.
Thank you.
And thank you. Mr. Ruja, it's good to have you here, especially at the extent of what they said about you. I want to be able to dig into that. But before I get to you about the Islamic banking, Honorable Mara sits on the Finance Committee. Let me start with him. Yeah. Because one, you are a seasoned banker on the senior level. What's the landscape of our banking sector right now? And even with the changes that have happened to have digital platforms, to have mobile money, but also put into context the number of people that are banking vis-a-vis mobile money.
Thank you, Timothy, and good evening, viewers. I think the banking environment has changed dramatically over the years. Historically, we used to have ledgers for carrying out transactions. We moved into the computerized environment of banking, where now the accounts were computerized. Although even at the time there was still, the operations were within the branch environment only, then banking moved into connectivity, where now the branches and ATMs were linked into a one system network. That is real progression, which we as bankers and the banking community have seen over the years. And also now, gradually, we have moved into a digitized environment, where now the historical brick and mortar of opening branches is becoming a thing of the past. Big banks like Stanbic, like Standard Chartered, Barclays, now ABSA, they have actually cut down, clawed back on branch network, and then using agency model as a way of reaching out to the customers. Then the element of carrying out transactions, payment systems. There is now less of a teller going to the counter and getting cash. The digital environment has provided opportunity for customers to carry out transactions using mobile money, using apps, and the innovation is happening daily. So just to give us a perspective is that the digital environment has taken, it's been a game changer for banking and bankers as well. So we have moved from brick and mortar, from branch-based transactions into a more digital environment. The banking population are still very modest compared to, for example, mobile networks, for example. The mobile networks, I don't have the exact numbers, but in the days when I was there were about between 2 to 3 million people that were in the banking environment, but mobile it's much more. The guys who are in the banking environment will give us the details. But so the world has moved now from the actual banking as we know it into integration with the mobile networks, so that people are now going to do banking on apps. So banking is now running, following up the mobile networks like MNOs, like MTNs and Airtels and the group, which has more usage in terms of population, because bankers used to rely on the branch account openings and the branch transactions, which is very limited. Very few people would go there. But as we speak now, people are even making applications for loans on apps on your mobile money. You just apply online, open accounts online. So it is a world which has been totally digitized, and it's a very interesting to watch.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much, Honorable Mara. We needed to build that so that we understand where we're coming from for where we're going. Dr. Luja, coming to you both from the Microfinance Support Center, but also someone that has been an advocate for Islamic banking. What is Islamic banking? Why should Ugandans be interested in it?
Thank you, Timothy. Islamic banking, precisely, it is no more banking system. It's about financial intermediation. What Ugandans have been seeing commercial banks do, conventional commercial banks do, it is the same we are going to do in Islamic banking. Only that this type of financial intermediation is guided by Sharia principles. You know, Islam, although the concepts are new here in Uganda, but they are known elsewhere in the world. Islam is a complete way of life. It talks about religion, it talks about commerce, business, transactions. Maybe this is a new venture Ugandans are going to witness now. Salam Bank and the likes, when they come on board, they are going to bring what Islam teaches in terms of commerce, in terms of transactions. And in fact, this is, I think, a very great opportunity for the Muslim community to show the world what their religion can contribute in terms of transactions. So what we shall do in Islamic banking is just normal banking system, whereby you have talked about the issue of establishment of Sharia Advisory Board. The role of Sharia Advisory Board is to ensure that transactions are done in a manner that is compliant with Sharia principles. This is what Pope Benedict XVI talked about during the financial crisis, if you can remember. Almost all banks collapsed in Europe and elsewhere in the world. He came out, he did a research and found out that only Islamic banking institutions were not affected by the financial crisis, especially in the Middle East and Southeast Asia. He came out with a landmark statement, Pope Benedict XVI. He said the ethical principles on which Islamic finance, which is Islamic banking, is based, may bring banks closer to their clients and to the true spirit which should mark every financial service. So what we are going to do is normal banking. It is just normal banking, only that we are going to be more ethical and more affordable to the client. Clients are going to see transactions which they understand, where there is no speculation, excessive speculation I mean, where there is no ambiguity, where there is no interest. You sit down with your banker and you agree on how the terms of reference, how are you going to conduct the business.
Just right there, Dr. Luja, you said interest, no interest. What drives this economy is credit. When you walk down to Chikubu, when you walk to any business, is credit. And interest is what keeps the banks afloat or these financial institutions. What do you mean no interest? What will you be getting out of this?
That has caused the turmoil, so you see in this market, the interest. The theory of interest has for a long time been a weak spot in the science of economics. And the explanation and the determination of interest rates have always been a subject of discussion amongst the economists. That is the quotation from Habela, the economists, people who brought banking and economics to the present day banking you see we have in the world. So there is no basis of interest. How much do you charge? Even the central bank rates, how can it determine the CBR, the central bank rate? How much to charge a client? You will find that in conventional banking, you will be charged because you are working with UBC here, you have a guaranteed salary, you will be charged a lesser interest rate than someone who is just operating a shop in Chikubo. So your interest will be, for example, 17%, and they will charge him 38%. So don't talk about interest. It has caused too much of harm to this economy. So that's why we are proposing that let's have a new model of banking. That is where you can sit down with the banker and you agree, you do the business together, you share the profits and losses. We don't mean that there is no interest, there is no any sort of return. There is return to a bank. Of course, they are in business, they have come to Uganda to operate a business. They should report returns to their shareholders and depositors. But they are going to do it in a way that they are partnering with the clients. They are sharing profits and losses.
When you talk about profits and losses, you seem to lose. Let's make it basic. I want to get a car.
Sure.
I come to the Islamic Bank. How do you make money? You seem like you're sounding like you're going to be an NGO.
Not at all. You want a car, you come to, let's say, Salam Bank, which has already opened the doors for Ugandans. You want a car. In fact, you are a very good client to that bank. You have a specific item you want, an asset you want. What Salam Bank and any other bank which shall do Islamic banking, what it shall do is to seek for an invoice. Go and identify the vendor, the supplier of the car, the seller of the car. You bring the invoice. Then that bank will buy the car from the supplier and it will sell you the car at a cost plus markup. That is where we are different from conventional banking.
Isn't it just changing the wording, semantics?
Not at all.
From interest to profit?
Not at all, not at all.
To markup?
Not at all. Because in the interest, if they give you 100 million, they charge you 20%, it means you are going to return back 120 million, irrespective of whether you make profits or losses. And by the way, that amount of money can fluctuate over time. If you delay on the commitments, if you don't pay on time, it will not be 120 million. It can go up to even 200 million. In Islamic banking, when they sell you at 100 plus a profit of 20%, there is no way a bank will come along the financing period to increase the selling price. The selling price will remain 120 throughout the financing period.
We'll come to some of those, and I'll come to Honorable Mara about the provisions. There were 6, only 4 were agreed by them, and I'll come to him to explain why the other 2 were not. But Andrew, let me come to you. Both as a tax consultant, both as a lawyer, the license has been signed. What legal framework needs to be put in place for this to happen? Because I know some banks that we can't mention here that are really happy to have this. I've also seen it in Malaysia, countries like Dubai have already embraced this. What are your thoughts about Islamic banking?
Thank you, Timothy, and good evening to our viewers. Islamic banking, I look at it as if we're in a community as village mates, and say we're a group of 5 boys or 5 girls or ladies, and one of us goes to UK to study. Let's say after senior 6, we all go to Makerere, Chambog, and other universities, and then one goes to UK to study. Remember, this was one of us. So when this person comes back, all of us will be excited. Sometimes we even touch to confirm if this person is really still one of us. Sometimes we want to smell and see how they are. But this person, remember, was one of us. So in that situation, some person will like this person. Others will want to compete and also be like this person. Others will completely shun this person. So Islamic banking is that person who has gone to UK, but was with us. So it's not a new thing per se. It has been around for some time. Only that in the environment of Uganda, we are looking at it as a new mode of doing business. Now, the regulatory framework is actually, to date, is available. And thanks to all that are responsible, they have done everything. The Honorable is here. They have done everything possible to amend mainly the main provisions, or the act, that is the Financial Institutions Act. In 2016, there are so many provisions that were there that actually could curtail. In the banking legal framework or in the banking classes, we all know, and banking law, a bank is not allowed to do any other business apart from accepting deposit and lending. But with that amendment, setting a legal framework, removing such barriers, now a bank in the Ugandan context, an Islamic financial institution or an Islamic banking business with a window available can actually do trading. So the framework has come up and is laying a ground for all these to happen. Of course, when you have a regulation or a law, like the Financial Institutions Act, which was amended in 2016, you must operationalize it. Because then the law will give you the substantive principles, but then you need the process or the procedures that you have to go through. And in 2018, we were lucky as a country that we got the financial bracket Islamic banking regulations that now are very clear in terms of the processes, the steps, the compliance requirements, and all that. So the ground has been set.
But
And
Andrew, just staying there.
Yes.
You talk about the law, the legalization, but also Dr. Luja talks about Sharia law, which is clear. It is not just the law, it is the embodiment of how it is. Do you see a conflict between our law, conventional laws, vis-a-vis the Sharia law for this to be implemented?
In my opinion, these people or these two are going to be together. They're not in conflict, but one is going to be supplementing the other. So the conventional laws that have been existing are now going to have some adjustments in order to accommodate this new kid on the block, which is Sharia law. We all know that there is no Sharia law in Uganda that is enacted by Parliament. There are principles, there are practices as appreciated from the Quran. And Sharia law, maybe from context, it is not simply the financing aspect alone. It involves so many other aspects. But with Islamic banking, we look at the Sharia law principles or the laws that apply to finance. How the Muslim community or how the teachings of Muhammad and all other jurists at the time thought is the best and the ethical way of practicing or doing business. So those are now being incorporated, not in conflict per se, but they are coming to supplement the existing regime so that we can accommodate. So look at a situation where you have a law that bars someone putting on a black suit. But there you come, Timothy, and you're in a navy blue suit. So you need to open up the law and say, okay, any person who has a suit can come and sit. So it means, in essence, that is also not removing the black suit person, but also now accommodating you, the navy blue person. So there's no conflict per se, but it is implementation. And when we look at most of the objectives of these laws, it is to accommodate, to operationalize, to ensure that you have this existing alongside the conventional structures.
So we're picking the principles.
So we are picking the principles, and we want to make sure that we comply to those principles. Now, those principles you would ask, or one would wonder, where are they written?
Okay.
Can I open a code and say, here they are? And like we said, these principles are found in the Quran. The way you look at the 10 Commandments and you find them in the Bible is the way you will find these principles. And they have existed. I think the common word that is akin to the Sharia law in the legal world is called common law. Those judge-made laws that they're not written anywhere, but they are practices that are known that a person walks well going forward. So if I find you walking, moving backwards, then I have to ask why. So that is how Sharia is.
Thank you. Professor, Dr. Luja has ably tried to explain Islamic banking to us, but you also see the conventional banks here. When you look at it, aren't we trying to put a round peg in a square hole, especially looking at the liberalization of the economy, looking at the banking sector? Where does Islamic banking fit in, even as good as it is?
Well, good evening, Timothy, and good evening, viewers. When I heard about Islamic banking, of course, the first feeling is this is an opportunity to increase capital. You know, when you're talking about capital access and everything, our economy happens to be small. And we have been told that where Islamic banking is coming from, people have money, there's some money in that economy. So my assumption is that if we join the system, more money will be availed to those who need it. I'm not a banker, but that's my simple understanding. And it is that we have not been accessing that money because there was we didn't have a license, we haven't enacted the laws that Dr. Chambad is talking about. So basically, if it is a system that if we comply with certain standards, it's going to avail more money into the economy to those who need money to work with, I think it's a good thing. But because I don't know much about banking and I also don't know much about Islamic banking, it raises some questions which may need to be clarified to us. Things like access, of course, the example of the car and everything was very good. And we also know that many people here have suffered the consequence of loans through the main banking system. We actually fear banks in Honorable Mara because it looks like when you touch a loan, you are going to lose your property, you lose your land title, you lose everything that you wanted that loan for. So if there's an alternative to that kind of banking system, I think it is a very good thing. I think we just need to maybe have clarification on who is going to access. Because you're talking about the Islamic banking system or the license which was given operating within a very neoliberal banking sector. Of course, there are challenges on how the bank will survive. It is good that profits and losses are shared between the bank and the person. That means the bank does not load all its losses onto the people, which we tend to see. That when the economy gets tough, the interest rates get, of course, they justify it saying it is risky. But to a person who is not in the system, that risk counts as a higher cost. So if you're going to have a system where losses and profits are shared, I think that's a good thing. But what I've also heard is simply having less interest does not necessarily mean it's cheaper. So those are things which it's not cost-free and it's not necessarily easy. So then that means those who are going to implement it and the ecosystem in which it's going to be implemented has to be worked upon so that it eases its implementation, but also it becomes cheaper. Or, well, it's cheaper than the other one, but it's not necessarily cost-free. And the excitement is that it would actually be cost-free. But maybe banks don't work like that. But I think the questions which need to be asked on issues of access, and Dr. Luja was very clear that it is a system which is built on Sharia law, which is codified in the Quran. So who can access is the issue. Who can access this kind of money? And if one is not a Muslim and therefore is not conversant with the teachings of Sharia, how does that person access? Or will it be a requirement that for you to access this financing, if you have your small shop which is about to close and all your goods are stuck somewhere and you need the bank to help you, do you have to first understand? Because I know many times we don't pay attention, but we know when we go for loans in banks, they sit with you, I think someone called a loan manager who takes you through all the small print, and the page is full of a lot of small print. And in your mind, all you are thinking about is your goods are stuck. So you sign and go, and then we end in trouble. So here, it's not going to just be that small print. It is that the legislation or the regulatory framework of that kind of banking system is codified in a particular set of laws called the Quran. Now, Sharia law, and it has its particular source. So to access this money, do you have to first get conversant with Sharia law? Or will the Dr. Lujas just give us money and hope that even if you're not a Muslim, you can comply? So you have that kind of thing, because we don't want the bank to collapse. We also don't want our partners in the Middle East to think Africa is just a gone case, because whatever you put there disappears. So we are trying to find a balance of getting this banking system in a context which has other operating banking systems. I think that has to be worked on so that there are no losses on either side. That is one. And coming from the community side of things, I'm more concerned about the issues of financial inclusion and how do we deepen access to financial services. Many people, even when we have banks all over, not many people have access to banking services, either because they don't have any job or they don't have any ready access to cash. So many people just survive in that. And even those who have something would prefer to keep their money somewhere because they are not sure about if you put it in the bank, okay, it is safe, but you keep it there at a cost, you get it out at a cost and all that kind of thing. So now the issue is, for those people who have been failing to access banking services, or loans or whatever for not having collateral, for example, is this going to waive off certain things? How does Islamic banking solve the issue of inclusivity and equity into accessing banking services? And I said I'm not a banker, so me, I'm asking from the user side. And we know what the challenge is with the existing system of the Dr. Chamba days and Honorable Mara have been doing. So for me, when I see a new kid on the block, the question is this kid better than the ones I know? So we need to answer that. And I'm asking because when you Google online, you realize you're told that 59% of women lack access to financial capital. So will Islamic banking be the solution to that? And of course, now also one thing I forgot is, you know, the people, when we talk about financial inclusion, people are talking about women, people are talking about youth, people are talking about those people who are not regularly associated with capital because of certain things rooted in tradition, rooted in culture, rooted in other, so many things. So will Islamic banking be a solution to that? Or is it just joining and agreeing with its older brothers and sisters, but just a different product? I think that's what we need to answer. But otherwise, for playing in the context where there's neoliberalism, well, we have always been made to believe that people in the Arab world have a lot of money. So maybe they will not suffer the losses, or they will not feel the losses. But otherwise, I think this economy has been precarious in a way that banks have to salvage themselves very well. So I imagine wherever they are coming from, where the concept is coming from, or where Salam Bank is headquartered, for example, because that's what we have now, I imagine it's well cushioned and well insured. Yeah, that's what I would like to think.
Okay. Honorable Mara, let me come to you. Both sitting on the Finance Committee and watching a few clips of you talking about Islamic banking. What were your concerns, especially 6 amendments were put before you, you decided on 4. Do you have concerns about this? And also having been a banker and looking at Islamic banking, are we just bringing another child in and say, let's have a kumbaya and go on and see where we're going?
Thank you, Timothy. When I was in the bank, I was in Tanzania, we were also running, we had Islamic banking products. And I have some experience on how it is treated. Now, in our case, when these amendments were brought, one of the aspects that we disagreed with was what was already in the Act. For example, they had embedded what they were calling a Central Sharia Advisory Council. It was like a Supremo seated on Bank of Uganda at that level. And yet Bank of Uganda Act, the act that created the BOU, says that Bank of Uganda, in the management of its monetary policy, the work that it does, it will not be subject to any directive from anyone, including the president. Now you had this Central Sharia Advisory Council that was seated on Bank of Uganda to determine how the Sharia banking, how do I call it, standards or requirements would be met. So which means now, if they disagreed, it means Bank of Uganda's hands were tied. So we said in terms of governance, let the Sharia Advisory Board sit at the commercial bank levels, because Bank of Uganda should not be seen to be involved in creating products for banks. That's the responsibility of the commercial bank. Let them go and handle it there. But what we said was required was to have a department of Sharia banking in Bank of Uganda to basically interface and monitor what is happening with the commercial banks, but not to be a Supreme Council on top of Bank of Uganda. So we rejected that one. And I think it was in good faith because, for example, if we had allowed that provision to remain, then the Catholics will also come and said, Pope also must be a representative of Pope, must also be at the helm in the Bank of Uganda to determine how the Christian products will be handled. We said, no, let's take the issue of control. let's get it back to Bank of Uganda to align it with the Bank of Uganda Act. So I think everybody agreed and said that's the best way to do it. Because my lawyer is here, this act was passed some time back, and they failed to operationalize it. Bank of Uganda said, no, we can't. Now, so it's bad to pass in a law which you cannot really utilize it. So that was a key thing that we did. But most importantly, what we passed was not creating an Islamic bank. There's nothing like that. What we passed was to making sure that Islamic banking products can now be operationalized by the commercial banks as we have them now. Any of the banks in Uganda can actually now undertake to establish Islamic banking products.
Within their system.
Within their system, so that we can benefit from it. And the law, as my colleagues here have ably explained, is that even with the Financial Institution Act, which we amended to remove this particular advisory council, Sharia Advisory Council, to allow Bank of Uganda now to really operationalize the act. The other aspect is relating to income tax. So if you look at the aspect of income tax provisions talks about interest in the law. Now, Islamic Sharia principles, which they have talked about, do not recognize interest. But as a country, the URA is seated there, is saying, no, but I need to collect my taxes. So now we had now to bring the Sharia banking principles into the income tax law, so that there is a provision which would allow URA to really collect that money, which we did. And making sure that we use Sharia banking principles and language which will allow them to accept and say, okay, we are going to pay this tax on the basis of how the Sharia looks at it. But also you are not to miss that, collecting that tax, even if you are operating Islamic banking products. We still want our money. Even if you're not calling it interest, but you're calling it profit. That profit sharing, so how do we treat it in the law? So that was one. The other one also is insurance products, what they call the takaful. The takaful, and then the reinsurance, which is they are calling retakaful. So there are languages, is acronyms that are introduced into the law, and making sure that the products like bank assurance in Islamic Sharia language is takaful. Then you have reinsurance, which is called ritakaful. So those language, we had to put them in the law so that they can say, okay, if we are going to do these products, then it is clearly understood. The taxman can actually come and we would be willing to pay because it now speaks to our language. And also withholding tax. So there are elements of tax, element of governance, basically on the Financial Institutions Act. So we had to amend a couple of laws just to making sure that we now can operationalize the Islamic banking products in Uganda. So that was what the amendments were all about.
Honorable, sticking with you, something that you said that really caught me. You, with your experience working in Tanzania,
yes,
both for a conventional bank that had Islamic banking there,
yes,
can these two coexist as banks in one bank? And also, would there be what would be the difference, or what would differ in the products of conventional banking vis-a-vis Islamic banking?
The conventional banking is easy. We know it. For example, the accounting standards, you just pick and play. So it's very easy. Now, Islamic banking, how do I call it? There are two major problems. One is that you have to have a fully fledged, established Sharia advisory board. Now, you need the scholars like him to sit and make sure that the governance, the way these products are being done, the products are approving of the products, the way the management, the governance around that product is being done is actually approved by the Sharia board. So how many of those people are available? So how many banks do we have in Uganda now?
26. 26.
26 banks. So now each bank now will have to have a Sharia advisory board.
Would that differ from the ordinary board?
That is different from the ordinary board. This is the scholars. These are scholars in Islamic knowledge. These are scholars. You must get them. And this is the issues that are raised in the committee, that are we going, in terms of governance, are we going to share the scholars? Will the banks, he will answer the question, will the banks share the scholars so that the products are approved and they are happy that what is being done, executed by the bank, is in line with Sharia, Sharia systems and Sharia standards? That is one. The second challenge is that in your financial reporting standards, it is not this conventional banking, the normal accounting that you know. You'll have to have another system, a spreadsheet where you're talking about profit, not interest. So you need to make sure that within the bank, you have people who are qualified in Sharia accounting standards, so that you almost have a dual reporting. You have now the normal accounting reporting standards, which as we know it, and now you have another Sharia reporting framework. And with Sharia, it is more rigorous than in the normal accounting. You have to keep on reporting onto the platform and the movements of the accounts. And so if you don't have people with that knowledge, then they will struggle. And I don't know whether we have enough of those in the country that will understand how that thing is handled. Those are only two aspects that I saw, which is tough. But the product itself is a good product. As he has already explained, for example, is that when you give me money to undertake a project, if the project fails, we all share in the losses. And if we make profit, we all share in the what? In the profit. And normal conventional banking, you fail, we come for you. We sell everything you've got.
Even the one you got before.
You got before, we even come for you. The personal liability. The lawyers here, you sign on your grandmother and everything. They sell off the assets and say, no, Mara, you have a personal liability. You are coming for your cows, which is not part of the thing. So that's the positive on Islamic banking.
Okay. Let me bring in Dr. Luja. I hope you've got some of the concerns, especially that came from Professor. The inclusivity, 59% of women not involved in this. But let me throw a question, even what Honorable Mara spoke about. What value does Islamic banking bring to this economy? Also in terms of products, because there's some things that he has spoken about, languaging, riba, which is interest, and all this. Help us put some value there and the different products that you're talking about.
Thank you, Timothy. Maybe let me start with that. The value it brings on board. But you cannot ignore the fact that Uganda is a member country of Organization of Islamic Cooperation.
Yeah.
This is a 57 member states, which are predominantly Muslim world. You talk of countries like Saudi Arabia, Qatar, Oman, Bahrain, Malaysia, Pakistan, but Uganda was registered in 1974 in that organization. And it has tremendously benefited from that membership, I can tell you. Uganda also joined on 28th of March 1977, it joined the Islamic Development Bank Group. It's a member there in that group. I can tell you that until today, Uganda has benefited to a tune of USD 1.6 billion. USD, United States dollars, 1.6 billion. That is how much we have benefited in value, in terms of value. So it is bringing value. We are talking of roads. IDB, Islamic Development Bank, is here. It has even set up a regional office here, a regional hub. Among all the countries, Somalia, in fact, that regional hub is taking five countries: Somalia, Mozambique, Comoros, Uganda, and Djibouti. So it is Uganda is the location which has been set to take all those member countries. So too much is coming into Uganda already in terms of value. We have benefited, roads have been constructed, markets have been constructed. We talk of how much has come, go to Ministry of Local Government. In fact, through Ministry of Finance, we have a partnership with the Ministry of Local Government, and the implementing partner is the Microfinance Support Center of extending affordable credit. This money has been coming into Uganda. It's not new. When we talk of Islamic banking, it has been here. Uganda has been borrowing from the Organization of Islamic Cooperation, from Islamic Development Bank on Islamic banking principles. And I'm proud to mention that at Microfinance Support Center, we are already implementing it. Our clients have already benefited from this Islamic banking money. Since we launched in 2016, we have financed projects across, although we have selected districts like 17 districts which are much affected, like water-stressed districts, districts which have been affected by poverty more than like Yumbe, districts like Kabarore, districts like, there are many, there are 17. So we already know what is going on as Uganda. Much is going to fly into Uganda. There is the partnership, which is the Investment Promotion Technical Assistance Program, where the IDB, the office which is set here, it is already looping into the Arab world, the Arab countries to come and invest in Uganda. So too much is going to fly into Uganda in terms of foreign direct investments. They are ready to bring more investors to Uganda. So on the question of inclusiveness, whether it is for Muslims exclusively, Islamic banking is open to Muslims and non-Muslims. If you could allow me to mention countries which have adopted Islamic banking and they are not predominantly Muslims, we have Canada, we have Australia, we have Luxembourg, we have even United States of America, Russia. You have seen Russia very recent opening up for Islamic banking. You have South Africa, we have Kenya. So they are looking at Islamic banking. United Kingdom, they are looking at Islamic banking as something which can enable them be there. Don't forget the quotation of the Pope that Islamic banking is more ethical and can go down and be affordable to everyone in the economy. So it is open to Muslims and non-Muslims. Let me tell you also that in Malaysia, I was in Malaysia for like 4 years studying, but Islamic banking has benefited the non-Muslims more than Muslims. And I predict even in Uganda, the non-Muslims are going to benefit more from Islamic banking than Muslims. At Microfinance Support Center already, I am managing that portfolio of Islamic. 95% of the beneficiaries of that portfolio, Islamic investments portfolio, are non-Muslims. Muslims don't go up to 5, even 3%. They are not up to 3%. So non-Muslims have benefited already. When the roads are constructed by IDB, Islamic Development Bank, everyone benefits from the road. From the road, it brings value to everyone. Look at the markets which have been constructed. Look at the hospitals. I can comfortably tell you, look at, for example, Islamic University in Uganda. Someone can think that that is a university for Muslims, predominantly Muslims. But if you go there, look at the population of students there, especially in the business faculties. They are non-Muslims. Why? Because they can see value. So Islamic banking brings value. It is not propagating the religion. It is propagating business, but in a way that is compliant with Sharia principles.
I'm glad you put the elephant out of the room, especially talking about it not just being for the Muslims. But we have spoken about value, and thank you both on the national and what happens there. We also know Salam Bank has done well in Djibouti. Let's get to the products. The products that Islamic banking is bringing to the market. vis-a-vis conventional banking?
First of all, Islamic banking is not here to compete with conventional banking. It is just going to complement in areas especially where conventional banking has failed to deliver. Those areas are there, they are known, even by bankers themselves.
What areas are those?
Which cannot be solved. I talked of interest when we were starting. I quoted a professor, not a professor, but an economist who is well known world over, bringing the contention about the interest, how they are determining the interest rates. So it is contested world over. If I can quote for you before I can answer that question, Henry Ford said, "It is well enough." Henry Ford, you know Henry Ford, an industrialist, American. "It is well enough that people of the nation do not understand our banking and monetary system. For if they did, there would be a revolution before tomorrow morning." That is what he said. It is well enough that people of the nation, me and you, we don't understand how banking is creating credit and how conventional banking is creating financial crisis. For if they did, if you knew what conventional banking, what harm they are bringing, I'm not here to campaign conventional banking, but I'm trying to give you the perspective of what he was meaning. If they did, if you knew the harm in only conventional banking being allowed to play alone in the market, there would be a revolution before tomorrow morning. That is not a Muslim, that is not an Islamic banker, he's an economist. So really there is much to talk about, but what we have to believe is that Islamic banking should complement, should be there in the market to complement. A big segment of the population has not been banked in Uganda.
Yeah.
Not only Muslims. Muslims constitute about 15% of this population, and that is very big. Mind you, most of these people who are in the informal sector, down there in Chiseka, down there in Chikubo, down there in Owino markets, they are Muslim youth because of the reasons you know. Most of the Timothys, you find them in ties, cooperative, you find them in parliament. So that segment of the population has been there. So it has been discriminated, it is unbanked. So Islamic banking is bringing them onto the financial board. So really there is a contribution. So
how do you bring them on board? What is it that is your niche to bring that unbanked? Because it's 4 million people that are in banks, 21 million on mobile money. How are you planning to get that man in Chiseka or in Chikubo, that young boy that is trading in a different market, whichever market? What is your niche? What is your value proposition that you're bringing as Islamic banking for this young person or whoever it is?
First of all, if he's a Muslim, we are now going to see the religious leaders, icons, talking about it, calling people to come to banking. Earlier, they were dispatching them, they were sending them off. You don't know, I cannot quote for you the verses of the Quran here, which are talking strong language about conventional banking. I cannot mention it here, because this is not a mosque. Otherwise, no serious Muslim in terms of religion. You cannot find any serious Muslim engaged in conventional banking, where he is engaged in interest, charged interest. Anyone you find engaged in conventional banking, that one on our side, I'm a sheikh, as a Muslim, is a transgressor. Now you find that now we have Islam, and that's why you see the president on this note. I thank the president of this country. I thank the government. I thank these honorables, Omara, the finance committee, and the Minister of Finance. They said we cannot, we have to put an end to this. We have to bring all this. Why don't we open both the windows such that we can have everyone on board? So we are going to bring them on board by bringing them products. We are going to complement conventional banking, not to compete. Why aren't we competing? But it is very sad that we have now a bank which is fully fledged, now only licensed. You are going to see in the near future the conventional banks you see we have in Uganda here. They are going to be also licensed to do Islamic banking alongside conventional banking system. This one shows that the system is not here to compete conventional banking.
That's why I think what Honorable Mara said. Do we have enough manpower to sit on those Sharia boards? Because 26 banks with numerous branches, do you have enough manpower? I know Islamic University is putting out the first graduates in Islamic banking, but do you have enough manpower, the expertise to handle this?
No country in the world had enough manpower when it started, human capital. Even those countries like Malaysia, where it is the best, it's best done in Malaysia, they are still having that challenge of human capital. It is just developed. We know we have the concept in the Ministry of Trade, buy Uganda, build Uganda. Human capital is developed, and you cannot develop it until you have it on ground. Now, believe you me, we have Salam Bank. It has come to Uganda, and several others are coming. We are going to learn on the job. The experts tell you.
So the litmus test is on the job.
On the job. People tell you that before you have it practical, you will never learn it.
So the profit and loss we're going to share is on the job.
It is, you are going to see it physically. Of course, they are going to fly in some experts from outside. And of course, we have experts already here in Uganda. I cannot come into that discussion, but the professors we have, the doctors we have, I was in Malaysia, I can tell you, those people who are advising those banks, they are professors in the university. They are not bankers, they have never worked in banks. So they sit together, they complement, like now the professor we have here, we can make her sit with a Sharia expert. They can do us a good job. As we put our foot there, we shall develop human capital, believe you me.
And you're sure we shall not make losses? The Islamic finance will not make losses?
In a business, by the way, this is a new venture. That's why it is unique.
You know why I'm asking, you know, people, you get the money, sometimes you get money to buy a car, you end up doing other things, and then you begin the chase, and yet you're marketing your products so well. I'm still yet to understand what is Islamic about it, apart from profits and losses, because you started by telling us it will be enshrined within the laws as set out in the Quran. So where does this come in? Or is it like any other bank? I come and pick the thing. I don't need to know what underpins it, and I just go. And also then when people begin playing the cat and mouse with your money, the way we normally play with other banks, what happens?
You see, I just introduced you to one category of the products we do, and that is profit and
What about
loss.
Maraba?
Yes, I was coming to that.
Yeah.
That is very interesting. The equity-based products, that is the one I talked about, where you share profits and losses. And that is the ideal Islamic banking product, where we share profits and losses. But in the event that you have unethical customers, like you mentioned in Uganda, someone is keeping like 5 sets of books. He has books for the Uganda Revenue Authority, books for the shareholders, books for like 7 sets. In that instance, maybe the banks will go slow as they enter this market. They will go slow on equity-based. But that one will be brought about by the unethical conduct of our market. Please let us work out on your ethical conducts, such that we can, we can witness the equity-based or the profit and loss. In the event that we don't have it, we have an alternative. You know, bankers are bankers.
Yeah.
Banking is banking, whether Islamic or conventional. It is about maximization of profit.
Yeah.
So where we see that it is too risky and I cannot cushion my side, what we shall do is to go for debt-based product. What Honorable talked about Omara, he said that we can go Murabaha, that is the debt-based, where we behave like a conventional bank. We don't want that to happen in this market. But if you force us, nothing we can do apart from mitigating the risks.
The losses, yeah.
Dr. Aluja, I'll put you on the spot later for a statement you made somewhere, and I'll come to that one. But let me come to Andrew. Andrew, fortunately, you're seated between Honorable Mara, who was a banker, and Dr. Aluja. On the part of Honorable Mara, the risk is pushed to the customer. On the part of Dr. Aluja, he's saying we're sharing the risk.
In the ideal.
In the ideal is to share the risk. Is this a shift in the paradigm of how banking is, and what does it look like?
Thank you, Timothy. And I think I'll be a stabilizer bar to what Dr. Jay is saying. I'll make attempts. Maybe just for context, we need to understand the basic principles that govern Islamic banking and finance. I think for me that should be the starting point, because we could throw around the words and all the Islamic terms, but we need to understand the basic principles. And like Dr. Uja is saying, this is not a concept, or this is not a product for Muslims only. No. And just for lack of a better word, the way he puts it out, it feels like it's for Muslims only. Actually, I already feel excluded as Andrew. This is a product that should be consumed and is available by everyone. And that goes into financial inclusion. Now, Islamic finance, the principles of Sharia law or Islam are: one, we want, Islam preaches or provides that we must all be ethical and transparent as we do business.
Isn't that an assumption?
Convictionally, when the bank sets the interest rate, for example, you are not there. They will sit as CBR and come up with the rate. You do not know. When you go for a loan, unless you're a lawyer like me who will take time to review the documents, there are so many paperwork with small, small words printed by 4 that you cannot read, and you will just sign. Here, we shall sit and draft an agreement that we shall agree upon, that will determine the final outcomes. Transparency and an ethical way. The other way of Islam, and this, like they say Islam is the way of life, is productivity. Let us be involved in the means that generate the money. Islam does not believe in making money just as a matter of lapse of time, that I give you the money and I sit and wait for you at the end of the month for you to bring back my money. Islam principles are telling you that no, if we are to make money, money should be seen as a means of creating value. It is not a product that you simply have to sell to people. And these are just Islamic ways. So if we have to have means, then you must be able to do something, either trade in a good or a service, and the end result will be that value. And these are principles. Now, that comes into also issues of ownership of such properties that we are trading in. Now, these are teachings. Now, as Islamic finance gives you those principles, then Islam will bar certain things as part of their infrastructure. That you see, when you speculate, for example, you are going to find yourself lying or misleading someone. For example, I think technically we have what we call derivative markets.
Derivatives, yes.
Yes, futures, options.
Futures,
that I can sit and
options.
say, let me buy the dollar today.
And
Because I'm told in Ukraine there's a war.
and hold.
Yes, and then maybe
And
after a year.
speculate after a year, I'll sell.
Now,
I'll
Islam
make a
tells
kill.
you when you go that way, chances are many you are relying on probabilities.
Sharia bans that
You are
one.
going to come up as bad and contradicting the teaching. So let's avoid speculation. Let us work in the real system or the real sector in terms of finance.
Yes.
So Islam will also come to tell you that there are some sectors which are haram, which are not good for you to invest in. Islam will bar the bars or the drinking of alcohol. Gambling. Because from the teachings of the Quran, they have been seen. And I'm telling you this, I'm not a Yusuf, I'm Andrew. And what I'm trying to show you is this product is for everyone. All you need to do is to understand what this product is all about. Now, if we understand the principles and what this Islamic finance will bar, then we sit within the confines of the rules and practices where we must operate. Now, if we are going to have this, true, there is risk on one side and there is risk on the other side, on profit on the other side. Now, the conventional way, and I'll use an unfortunate example of Mr. Bizika. I think we all grew up knowing about Bizika as a business. Poultry, I think, it was really the most.
It's being sold.
And today when you read in the newspapers, a debt of about 40 billion, you wonder how it accumulated now. That 40 billion would have principal and interest. You will be surprised, Timothy, that interest contributes about 70% of that debt. For lack of a better word, in law we have a word called unjust enrichment. You see that the bank, yes, it got money, it has not done anything in the activities of Bizika. But for the different factors, including COVID and say acts of God, he has found himself in such a situation. Now, you see that on his side, convictionally, the bank is not interested in his story. The bank is interested in its money because that is the convictional way. Now, the Islamic finance model is you are not a bank and customer relationship, as we know it from the legal perspective.
We are in it together.
We are partners. And that's where the concept or a principle of sharing comes from. Now, when we are partners, it means we all take care. You want to be involved in decision. You want to assess where I'm putting the money. Now, that taking care would mean that we come up with the best outcome. And so it's a partnership to that extent. And then if we get, because we have all devoted time and effort and human capital to what we are doing as a trade, it means when we get a profit, it is only ethical and fair that we share that profit.
Okay.
If we've all put in effort and the outcome is a loss, and I don't want to say artificial loss, a genuine loss, it is only fair that we come and we all share that loss. It's like a partnership kind of arrangement. So transparency is at the core. So you see, we are moving from risk to partnership. I don't want to say that the other one is not bad, because even in Islamic finance, actually, the capital must be rewarded. We don't simply have capital and you say, for me, I don't make out of capital. It is the mechanism through which we make this capital to be rewarded. Okay. And I want to hint something on the expertise. You see, Timothy, I will also admit that we have a long way in terms of ensuring that we get the right people on these boards. Because a financial sector is a very serious part of the economy. A very small misadvisory or guidance, because this board is going to be approving these products. Now, this board, among other core activities, to ensure that we comply with Sharia. Now, it does not mean that it is every Muslim knows Sharia law.
No.
We're not talking about Sharia law in a broader context. We are talking about the Sharia from the finance aspect. So we will have challenges, and I'll tell you, when you're starting, you will have challenges. But actually, for me, I see an opportunity. In 2008, when this started and Bank of Uganda talking about it, I thought to myself, oh, maybe by the time we get there, I will be the Ruja. So it is an opportunity for the people who are in the pipelines to prepare. For me, I'm already seeing jobs. I'm already seeing consultancies, which is really good for the economy. So the boards are there for us to occupy. Okay. But you must prepare yourself. You must understand these Sharia principles. But to be very clear, Timothy, this is not a Muslim thing.
Okay. Andrew, allow us to be fair and ethical to take this break.
Water, please. Can I pay with Momo? No. Hey, can I pay with Momo?
Here's our merchant.
Oh, very good.
7 Mega?
20. Can I pay with Momo?
Unfortunately, no.
Baby, let's go.
When paying with MTN Momo comes with more benefits for everyone, it just doesn't make sense not to have it.
Hello, I've come for it.
Can I pay with Momo?
Yes, you can.
Pay or shop with MTN Momo and get cashback every week. It's free of charge. Use the Momo app or dial *165*3#.
Tata ni Mama Sarah.
Wanji?
We did all we could. Naye we couldn't save her. I'm sorry. You brought her in very late. Malaria destroyed her organs and reduced her blood levels. She was anemic. You know how dangerous malaria is. I am sorry, but malaria has killed your daughter.
Malaria kills more people in Uganda than any other disease. Protect your loved ones from this enemy. Ensure everyone in your family sleeps under a mosquito net every night, whether it's a cold or hot season, to protect them from malaria. In the event that any of your family members shows malaria signs and symptoms, take them to the nearest health center immediately to prevent complications from malaria that could result into death. Together, we can chase malaria out of Uganda. This message is brought to you by the Ministry of Health with support from Global Fund.
What's the best kind of business to invest in? One that connects Ugandans border to border with a high-speed broadband 4G and is the first to launch 5G? What about one of the largest corporate income taxpayers in our country? Oh, the fastest growing telecom in the last 5 years. Wow! Well, here's a chance to invest it all. Take part in Airtel's initial public offering today for as little as 100 Ugandan shillings per share. Remember, a retail investor gets 5 incentive shares for every 100 they buy and 6 incentive shares if they purchase using Airtel Money. Dial star 185 star 85 hash now to get started.
Juko. Yo. Check the shopping, man. What's your secret?
Haven't you heard of the Parish Development Model PDM?
Yes, I did, but I thought it was just a talk.
No, it is real. I and a few friends together formed a circle, accessed money from the PDM, invested in a poultry project, and now things are moving.
Juko. I thought I was one of your friends.
You are.
But you left me behind.
I didn't leave you in poverty. What you do, just visit your LC2 chairperson and your parish chief and start the process of economic transformation. Just like that. The Parish Development Model is an initiative from the government of Uganda through the Ministry of Local Government designed to transform all lives of Ugandans for the better.
PDM, my parish, my development, my life.
Are you tired of high fees and slow transfer time when sending money? Airtel Money is here to revolutionize the way you move your money. We have revised our rates back to ground. Sending money from Airtel to other networks in Uganda, East Africa, and to the rest of the world has never been more affordable. Dial star 185 hash and start sending money. Switch to Airtel Money today and experience unbeatable rates and top-notch services for all your local and international money transfer needs. Airtel Money. Instant, secure, borderless.
Welcome back from that quick commercial break here on Behind the Headlines. My name is Timothy Nyangweso. I'm joined by Professor Sarah Sali, Honorable Mara Paul, joined also by Counsel Andrew Chambade and Dr. Sulaiman Luja, and we're discussing everything Islamic banking vis-a-vis conventional banking. But let me read some feedback. Tumwebaze from Chigo says, thank you for the show. Very interesting program. Islamic banking is good for the development of the country. Islamic insurance should also be introduced soon to be a complement for the Islamic banking. Thank you very much. Someone else comes on and says, thank you, I'm Michael Opolot from Palisa for the program, but help me ask the panelists, why do banks in Uganda have a hard time giving money to startups, especially requesting for titles or car logbooks? Which comes first, the title or the business? How can someone without mentioning the above access let representatives of the Islamic Bank answer the hard talk on how they can finance startups? And still, according to what the representative of the Islamic Bank has, I'm a Ugandan without land title, no civil servant, not a civil servant, but I want to get a taxi and do business, face the camera, and now in simple terms, can I please get some money without any of these, okay? I disagree with Islamic banking. If the propaganda is to be used, why are many Muslim countries still in the global south Okay, this is Evangelist Kakunguru. Greetings to you and Dr. Sarah. Okay, last one is, good evening UBC. My name is Apuli from Hoima. I would like to know how many Islamic banks can handle loans for large investments that are at least worth 17 million US dollars and beyond. The panel should hint on this for me. What is the criteria for eligibility, especially for organization? They don't have interest, they have profit. And how and when do we repay back this money we have borrowed? Deep into the Sharia law. Thank you very much. We'll leave it at that for now and pick up the conversation here. Professor, let me come to you. Dr. Luja has really given us enough, and Council Andrew has also built on it there. Now, as an ordinary Ugandan, when you listen to Islamic banking, because you and I have just got the knowledge today, when you listen to it, do you think it is feasible, especially some people that are concerned with access to capital, access to money, affordability, does it answer your concerns there?
I think, thank you, Timothy. I think from what I've explained, it seems to answer. And I think the question is, first of all, banking things are very high level of financial knowledge up there. Not too many of us are conversant. So like we don't know many things about banking except when you need a service. We don't know a lot also about Islamic bank. So like you say, you and me have learned it today. So apart from the little that we read in the papers. I think that is good, but I think there may be need for more publicity to understand what it is about. They may also need to understand, you know, we fear banks. Some of us fear loans, even as educated as we are, because you fear the small print. That is the basic thing. So each time you're called, you see there's a salary loan here, there's a car loan here, and we receive very many calls. The issue is the small print, because you don't trust banks. You don't know whether what they are saying is actually what they are meaning. So we are looking forward to seeing whether actually this is not going to be like that, okay? I hope what they are saying is what they will mean. But broadly, I think we also need to know, I know when Dr. Luja started, he said Islam is a way of life, so the banking is part of the whole system of the social, the cultural. I want to say even the normal banking system is a way of life, but we are trained to think that it is academic, or that it is finance, and money knows no color. But all these things grew up within a cultural setting of a capitalistic economy. And capitalism is about making profits at whatever cost. I take you out or you take me out, and it is that aggressive competition. So what I see Islamic banking trying to do is to provide a response to that. Like you said, it's not competition, it is complementarity. But I think the capitalistic system would had to reach a point where people say, okay, if this is how banking is done, and this banking, of course, when you look at Western banks, some of them are 400 years old, they're 500 years old. They came up from the time capitalism was developing and have grown with it and formed some of these habits. So when they come to some of our societies that don't have a similar history of capitalism, we are still between industrial, between pre-capitalists, and then we have capitalists, then you don't know what we are. So applying those things as a copy and paste from whether New York, from London, and whatever becomes a challenge for us. That's why people can take loans and then default on them because you expected things are going to work, then they didn't work because your context is different. So I think with the buzzword we always deal with terms of things of finding alternative models, decolonizing what others, and providing a response and a challenge to the Western world. I see Islamic banking as trying to offer an alternative to banking, because the banking we have always run is Western kind of banking within a Western socio-economic system. So these are providing an alternative of financing within certain principles of a different cultural setting. So they are all ways of life. It's not only just Islam. But we've seen that the other way of life is problematic. It is good with certain parameters, but it doesn't work for many of us because we are very, very poor, or this economy is so precarious. You take a loan today thinking things are going to work, then acts of God, COVID, like you looked at the floods in Kampala today. I'm just hoping people have not lost merchandise, but they could have lost merchandise. So those are the kind of our contexts that yesterday looked so wonderful, today can easily go south, but if you're lucky, it will not go. So I think it is still early days, but of course, when you read in the books, or you read on Google, you do research, where it is happening, good things are happening. But also these are communities which are largely Islamic, okay? So we are yet to see how it works in non-Islamic societies. We are, as presented by the two, it's very, very wonderful, but we need to see how actually it will work and how the non-Muslims will be supported. I know there are some beneficiaries even here who are non-Muslims. But I think it's just early days. But if he presents it the way he presents it, it will be good. But for me, the major thing is to remove the small print. If they are going to remove the small print, if you want to charge people 30%, say you're going to charge 30%. Don't say it is 5% and then 20 years I'm still paying the same loan which I took, which was 1 million, and now 20 years, the thing, you don't know when it will end. And you end up with a kind of, actually, our losses and why our economy doesn't grow is our rates of interest are very high. So every startup does, I think there's statistics that they don't see their first, most startups don't see their 5th birthday, but most of them actually go bust after the first birthday. And some of these are either the big loans from the banks, but most of them are not, because they cannot access those ones. They go for circles. And you see circles, not circles. What are these? Loan sharks. Yeah, the loan sharks. And because we don't have laws in this country, also which limit the amount, the percentage of interest you can charge. So loan sharks charge different interests, and actually they just take out the people. They're even more aggressive. So now, if Islamic banking is coming to mediate between those, probably the common person will have some relief.
Honorable Mara, both as a seasoned banker, an economist, but also sitting on the finance, when you were really passing these amendments there, what did you envision, especially for the economy, and how would Islamic banking revolutionize it, even looking at the example that Andrew has given?
Thank you, Timothy. I would want the viewers there to understand that Islamic banking portfolio worldwide is in the range of about $2.4 trillion. That is substantially huge. And so the investors in the Islamic world that would be interested to invest in Uganda would easily come if the enabling environment in terms of the laws are favorable to how they do business. So as my friend doctor has been explaining, in the beginning there was a great sense of trepidation about Islamization of the country through, how do I call it, Islamic banking conduit. So there was some fear there. But if you look at it, what we are doing here is that we want those banking products to be here. We are not establishing a Sharia law here in this country. There's nothing like that. What we are saying is that we want these products to complement the conventional banking. And therefore, any bank in Uganda can actually collaborate with a funding agency, with any Islamic bank outside there, because they have really a big balance sheet. And so they can collaborate so that those funding can come and help us to meet the funding gap that we have here. The challenges that the commercial banks in Uganda is we have short-term liabilities and short-term assets. There's that matching concept in accounting. We get depositors' funds. The longest you have is maybe 1 year. and then you have to use that money to lend long term, so there's mismatch. So some of this money are seated there in the Islamic world, which can come here and we do it long term. You know, so the money can come and then we can do long-term projects in the country, whether road infrastructure, whether businesses. It's just unfortunate we were discussing it here during the whatever. The break. Looking at a company like Bianzica. We manufacture cooking oil, and one of the products that we sell is actually a sunflower cake. Bianzica has been actually one of our off-takers as a company. We've been selling sunflower cake to Bianzica. I was so saddened today to hear that they have been closed down and the banks are actually selling it. I want to appeal to the Minister of Finance that if there is any company that we should consider to salvage, is Bianzica, because they had actually demonstrated resilience, productivity. It's the first of its kind in the Uganda where they are really doing something so fantastic. But because of the COVID period that every company went through, I think they are slackened behind, and so the conventional bankers have gone after them. So maybe you guys need to consider. So I think we can salvage this company as a country so that they can rebuild and we can recover that money with time. So Timothy, for us, we see an opportunity of a capital inflow because of the environment which we have. Uganda is a very stable country. I'm actually happy that the president signed the bill, and it had taken years for it to be implemented. I would want the Christians outside there, I'm a Christian, not to think that now this is a conduit by the Muslim world to come and Islamize Uganda. No, this is about financial services. This is about moving capital from where it is, lazy capital, into Uganda for our own good. Many of us actually have benefited through microfinance support, and we are Christians. And so we should have no fear that what we have done is something that will make this country less of a Christian nation than anything else. Capital is capital. So I want to look forward to, because now there is this bank which has been opened. It's called what? Salam. Is going to be completely an Islamic bank, right?
Yeah.
Doing Islamic products on the Sharia banking products. Yeah. Now, that doesn't stop other commercial banks, because when I was running Stanbic Tanzania, we had Islamic banking services within the bank. Stanbic is not an Islamic bank, but we had the products inside there. So maybe the boards of various banks in Uganda, the managing directors, the executives, should look at the opportunity of introducing Islamic banking services within their own organizations. And as the doctor said, now we just need to make sure that the Sharia Advisory Board is in place, and they can actually piggyback on the expertise from outside. It doesn't mean there should be Ugandans. They can get people, Sharia banking experts from outside, to come and sit and approve the Sharia banking products, so that over time, then they can actually provide those services to the people, and also bringing more collaboration, so that the investors outside there can come and put in money in our financial institutions, and then we can on-lend that money to the population. I believe this is the start of a period of time when these people begin to make money. Then I think the rest will follow suit as well.
Dr. Luja, let me come to you. Let's get to the nuts and bolts, especially the pains of an ordinary Ugandan. Someone mentioned, I am just starting up. When I go to a bank, they'll ask me for a loan, for a car logbook, for me to be able to borrow money and start a business. Let's get to some of those products. Child has gotten out of university, 40,000 leave every year, any tertiary university, 9,000 jobs are available. How are you helping those young people?
You see, this is a financial sector. Islamic banking will not work in vacuum.
Yeah.
Government and even at Microfinance Support Center, we have been telling people that come into cooperatives, form groups. Islamic banking has not come to help someone who doesn't have anything. Because someone asked, if I don't have capital, if I don't have those collaterals, if I don't have any business, will I be helped? They at Microfinance Support Center, we have been telling people that come into groups, come into cooperatives. We can lend you, even if you want on Islamic banking principles, we are lending from 5 million Uganda shillings to 50 million Uganda shillings without any collateral. Just personal guarantees. You cannot find that in a bank. The banks have 5 C's when they are assessing whether to extend to you a credit or not. They look at issues like character. What is your character? They look at issues like capital. Do you have capital? Do you have any business you are running now? They look at cash flow. What is your cash flow? How do you, what is your income? And what is your expenditure? You see, that is not a startup. Capacity and also collateral. They are in marriage with those 5 C's. Now, when you are a startup and you don't have anything, you need job, you need sustainability, you need to improve your lives, especially if you are in districts which are poor, where you are working, like Yumbe, as I told you, Buyende, those districts, Kabarore. You can come to Microfinance Support Center. Micro lending is there. Government already opened the door in 2016. We are already doing it. We can lend you money. But unfortunately, if you walk into a bank without those 5 C's, and by the way, collateral comes last. It is just there. They first look at the first 4 C's to determine whether to extend to you a credit or not. Now, the other issue was someone asked on, for example, if he wants like 17 USD million, whether these Islamic banks can give him money or not. Don't forget that every bank, as I said, that banking is banking, whether Islamic or conventional. They can do syndication. And that's why, for me, I look at calling upon other players in the market to come on board. Because these Islamic banks will need what we call Islamic interbank money market, where they can borrow from their colleagues and be able to lend to finance like these big monies. They can only access that money when they have an interbank market. So they can do syndication. They can also get lines of credit from, for example, Islamic Development Bank to be able to finance, especially at this time when we are just embarking on this Islamic banking system. But we call upon all the other banks. We don't want customers to shift from their banks to just one bank, because that one can bring about systemic stability. We want them to open up and have either subsidiaries for Islamic banking or windows for Islamic banking. Yes.
And someone spoke about, there was that 17 million, but let's get to something that Professor hinted on. We Ugandans, and by saying we have tendencies of being very fraudulent in the ways we do things. I pick a loan from this bank, try to pay the other one, pick one from here. That's there. But also non-performing loans, something that Bank of Uganda has addressed. How do you treat these ones? Non-performing loans, fraudulent Ugandans that pick money and really don't use it for what they have said they're going to use it for?
That's why I talked about Islamic or interbank money market. Because, by the way, don't forget that we have CRB, Credit Reference Bureau. This is a platform where all financial institutions can access the credit history of their clients. Before you finance a client, you have to know how much has he taken in credit and how much does he pay. Has he been a fraudulent customer or not? You cannot do that unless when you are subscribing to that CRB, Credit Reference Bureau. So, and also in Islamic banking especially, because now they will have to link and see how customers have been performing in other banks. So really, I think, as I said earlier, that banking is banking, whether conventional or Islamic. And bankers are bankers, whether Islamic bankers or not Islamic bankers. And by the way, I can interest you that the good Islamic bankers will be the good bankers. You first need to be a banker. Only then you can be an Islamic banker. So these banks, they know what to do. They know how to deal with those customers, problem customers we are talking about. I don't want to give them the notes, but they will come here, they will see. As I said, it's learn on the job. They will go there in the bank. Of course, these are bankers. They know how to deal with such clients.
Before I bring in Honorable Mara, there is the commercial bank rate. What is the rate of Islamic banking?
Of course, the determinant, the baseline will be central bank rate, just like in conventional. How much does central bank lend to these commercial banks? Then it will add on that rate, the profit rate. It wants, for example, 2% or 5%, depending on the profile, the risk profile of the client, as I mentioned. If you are a high risk client, it means the rate will be high. It can be, for example, 10% of the central bank rate plus, for example, 17 or plus 10 or plus 12, depending on your risk profile. So it is case by case.
The fine print you said, bankers are bankers. That's the fine print Professor was talking about. But let me come to Honorable Mara.
Yeah, now, there is something that he mentioned, and the question coming from our viewers about startups. You know, we the startups, the bankers are not interested in startups. Doctor talked about the 4 C's, and I want to explain what the 4 C's are. One is character. The other C is capacity. The other one is initial capital. And then the other C now is security, which is capital, which you are putting as collateral. Now, so bankers look at you, Timothy, and say, are you a trustworthy person? Is your yes a yes? How disciplined are you? Are you believable? Your character, we gauge your character. Then the second one, we see the business you are doing, you want to propose to be funded. We say, do you have the capacity, the managerial skills, the intellectual capacity to really handle this project that you want to do? Then we will ask the question and we say, this thing that you want to do, which now answer the question of the questioner, that have you yourself have a skin in the game? Have you put in your own capital in this thing that you really want us to fund? Or you've sold some animals and put something there. You put some capital. Have you really put in something that we can see? That is why now the issue of startups, you can say startups, but you have land. You sold something and you acquired the land where the thing is going to be. Then the last C one is now capital, which is like a collateral something. You're going to put a building now to cover this thing. That is the final C. So I would want the viewers outside there to just see that when you go to the bank, look at those 3 C's. Try to answer those 4 C's. Whether you have the managerial capacity, your character is good, because if you are borrowing from there and you are not paying,
you have bad character.
Then the Credit Reference Bureau will catch you, and then he will speak to your character, that you are not a good credit-worthy client. So from there, they will not even touch you. So you have to be very careful. That's why you are going to sit on the boards of banks now. If you have a bad credit history, or you've been issuing checks that keep on bouncing, they will go and catch you on that one and say, this one is kwara. You cannot sit on a board of a bank. So those solid things are there, and unfortunate, that's how the banking works. But also, if you have a good story, you have a good business case. We always say a great idea will always attract money. If you have a strong business case that you believe in it, is believable, and we look at it, then there is no way money will not be given to you. Because we'll look at those, a full spectrum of what you're doing, and then it will be supported.
Thank you, Honorable.
Yeah.
Dr. Luja, what other products are there? We have talked about the borrowing of the money. Honorable Mara spoke about insurance. What other products are there? What other things is Islamic banking bringing to this banking sector, but especially to the economy?
Of course, as I said, that it is a complete sector where we need, he has talked about Islamic insurance, that is Takafu. We need that because Islamic banking, as I said, it will not work in a vacuum. It needs supporting sectors like Takafu or Islamic insurance. We need capital market, Islamic capital market. And here, the Capital Markets Authority of Uganda has done some work already. We are moving slow, but we need to have the legal framework settled such that we roll out something which is beneficial for the economy to have a backup, a legal backup. So Islamic capital market is cooking something because these banks will need wholesale money, big capital, as you talked about 17 million USD. That money is not very easy to accumulate it from the savers' money or depositors' money. So you need to go to capital market where you can get big volumes of capital and given to you at a long term, like 10 years, 5 years. You cannot find that unless you engage with the capital market. So the products are many, but people should expect wholesale banking, Islamic banking, when they need big capital, it is there. Working hand in hand with the Capital Markets Authority, something is coming. Even insurance, you have seen bancassurance coming. Islamic insurance is very soon rolling also out because these deposits will need to be insured, and we shall need a RITA cap. We are open. This is a global world. Don't forget. We are open to markets, other markets like, for example, the Middle East. We are open to markets like Malaysia, Bursa Malaysia, Bursa Suku Silaa. We are going to see banks subscribing there to that platform such that they can start selling commodities. Because Islamic banking is about real economic sector. I should emphasize that point because it is actually ambiguous to most of the people. They are asking, if you are charging markup, if you are charging a profit, how is it different from conventional interest where they are charging interest? Isn't it just a back door? You are passing interest in the back door, then you bring it, you charge interest in the name of profit. You are going to see real economic sector where you are buying and selling commodities. All the problems this economy is finding is from speculators. People, as Honorable has said, they go and they can speculate the market, they can buy the dollars and keep them, then bring them out in times of scarcity. So in this case, for Islamic banking, you are going to see us buying commodities, selling commodities, doing real business, so it is real business sector.
Okay, you have given us the good English, the nice words, it sounds very good. What's the catch? Because honestly, everything sounds so good.
Yes.
What is the catch? What Professor calls the fine print? Because when I hear you, even tomorrow I want to get a loan. I can buy products there. Bonds are there. And I'm going to come to the bonds and insurance. What is the catch?
And he said there is the central
catch,
bank rate.
Yes.
Uganda should be ready. I don't know whether I'm talking too much good about Islamic banking, I don't know. But really, I'm telling you what it is. Dubai or United Arab Emirates was there. I don't know whether I'm over-exaggerating it, but remember in 1970s, Ugandan economy was better than UAE if you were born. during that time, for me, I was not born by that time, but I'm told that Uganda used to do what? To donate to United Arab Emirates. Our economy was the same like Malaysian economy in 1960s, 1970s. But what happened? What went wrong? Today, after 50 years, you see Dubai or United Arab Emirates, where it is. You cannot compare it. You cannot gauge that Uganda will be there.
Dr. Ruja, let's stay there. What will be the rate of your bond, the Islamic bond? Because you're talking about the bond and the insurance. What would be the rate?
The rate, as I said, the determinants are many. I cannot say that, for example, it is only 5% or 10%. It is dependent on the risk profile.
Okay, the insurance.
For the insurance, of course, they are operating in this market. When they come, the rates will be relative to the conventional rates.
No, but
when you're done, please join Parliament.
No, but I mean, how about, because those are yet to come, how about for the products that are already here, like the lending you're doing, because you told us about the central bank rate, and then from there you said you'll add something else like 7%, and then, so at the end of the day, what does it come to?
Let me excite you. Let me excite you, just a simple statement. Islamic banking is going to operate in a market, Ugandan market, where the cost of capital is already determined. It's already known. It is central bank rate. It is similar to Islamic and to conventional. So the rates will not be so different. Those ones who are looking for a difference in rates, you are not going to see it.
So is it still interest rate, or you're still calling it profit?
It is about the principle. The principle of buying asset and selling asset is different from speculation, ambiguity.
No, now you see, you're talking about assets. Those are big things. But I'm talking about getting a loan. Like if I got a loan today of 10M, it is money. I'm not selling assets. And you've assessed my 4 Cs or whatever Cs or nothing. So what do I expect to pay back?
Can I explain that to you?
Yeah.
Because for him, he's trying to run away. So this is what happens.
Yeah.
In conventional banking, we use of course the central bank rate, and then with the margin, we call it interest, or let me say prime rate of that particular commercial bank, plus risk margin. Let me say 5% or 10% goes to 17 or 18 or 21%. Now that will be the interest that what you know. They will calculate, amortize it over a period of time. That's conventional banking. Now, when you come to Islamic banking, they will say, okay, what is the CBR, central bank rate, which is the cost of capital. That's the minimum 10%. Cost of capital. They'll get that. Then now, they will take the risk profile of the customer, as he has talked about. How risky is this business? Now, they will now begin to put a markup. That markup now, instead of calling it interest, they will call it profit.
But it could be the same. It could even be higher.
Yes, it could be the same, could be higher. Exactly the same thing. Now, when it comes to bookkeeping now, the things start changing when it comes to bookkeeping. Now, while you are amortizing, calling this one interest, they will have now their spreadsheet, and they will say the capital is this much. Now they will calculate, say, the profit over this period, the profit is this much. So they will call it profit. That's why I'm telling you that in terms of bookkeeping purposes, they have that matrix in the bookkeeping. Is not your conventional thing, amortization. They will just do a spreadsheet, which now in the language of reporting, according to Sharia banking, you now should not call it profit. You should, interest. You call it profit.
But also in the interest of what he said earlier, that we share profits and losses. So the 21. Let's say if we've gone for 21%. So that means I should expect to pay 11.5.
No, no, no. You'll pay the full 21.
Okay.
You'll pay the full 21. It presupposes that you are going to get more money beyond the 21. So you first give me that one. So in the spreadsheet, that's what they put there.
Wow.
The only difference maybe, I don't know, is in terms of the compounding interest. That is where maybe Islamic banking now will be different from the conventional banking. Because now they will maintain the same thing. But in conventional banking, now you fail, things start jumping.
So Honorable.
So that's maybe the difference.
Honorable, I think the difference should be looked at in terms of the ideology. not the rates.
Okay.
If you are comparing the
I
rates,
I agree on that one totally. And reporting is different, but it's a same thing. The nomenclatures are different in terms of
But you see,
the
whether
language.
ideology or not, the Muntu Awansi, the we, are getting money. So I got 10, am I paying back 20?
Yeah.
Am I paying back 1.2? So whether you're talking about ideology or the same, the person is dealing with money.
As I think as our colleague here, our lawyer said, is that the transparency, I think the principle is important. The transparency is that you discuss and agree that should things go wrong, how do we then deal with the issue? Now in conventional banking, we just make you sign the small little
sign here.
you find a very script in the bottom there. You are not involved in the conversation. We just give it to you. You sign. We go. When things go wrong, we now pull it to you. Said, you see this one?
You sign.
But in the other one, when things go wrong, you come over the table and discuss how do we deal this thing.
Okay.
Yeah.
Okay. Andrew, even as we draw a close to the show today, with everything you've explained, conventional banking, the interest rate being given 70% of it, Islamic banking, they buy the asset, they give it to you, they put a markup there, roads and all these things. But also, professors, that's something very profound. We like paper money. Getting to a cashless economy, technology, all these platforms, and they play catch up to what already is here. Agency banking is here. Mobile money is doing already what they're doing. We seem to see principles and ideology, but the methodology is the same.
Thank you, Timothy. I think when you look at it from the concept or from the view of financial liberalization and making sure that you have enough on board, I think when you look at the Sustainable Development Goals, there's a need for financing, and it's through financing that you're able to achieve those goals. And still, SDGs are telling you, move away from the conventional ways of financing, being just tax and borrowing, but introduce more other means of getting finances, and Islamic financing being among them. So it's good to have quite a number. But now coming back to Muntu Awansi, you've seen how we are grappling with the concept of markup. And when they were explaining, I tried to sit in the shoes of a boy in Chiseka. For me, it's a question of terminology, but it sounds like the same thing. Because when you say you're going to look at the central banking rate, say 10, then you put on top of it your profit and your cost, and you come to 17, you are not so much different from the one who has given me 10 million and is also asking me for 17%. It's not. So that's why you see the non-scholars will say you are just playing on us, or you are playing with kind of terminologies. And I think that comes into the need for more awareness. And awareness will include publicity or how we explain certain things. But having quite a number, agency banking being on board, bank insurance, and then this is really good, because there is always that untapped group of the economy. I'll tell you that I've met staunch Muslims who do not have bank accounts, who say, no, for me, my beliefs, I cannot go to that bank. But now with this, it means there's that population which Dr. called about 15%, assuming just a quarter of that is not yet tapped. It's going to welcome this kind of product. When you go to Tropical Bank, I'm a member, you barely find the non-Muslims, but it's because they think Tropical Bank is perhaps a Muslim bank. So it's going to bring in more people. But I think more awareness and like you asked, where is the catch? I think my challenge is going to come to the markup. And you see, we are a capitalistic economy. And at the end of the day, when I speak economics, we have market forces of demand and supply that actually determine. I cannot be an Islamic bank, for example, and I sell a product plus 2% markup just because I don't want to over when my competitor is doing a profit of 10%. Exactly. Definitely, I will also go. So along the way, we might find. But this is new. I think let us not kill it before it kicks, it starts working. Let's watch it. Let's see how the modalities happen. And let's see how the Sharia compliance is implemented. So at the end of the day, we'll be able to tell who was lying behind a word, who was not implemented as good. So you will have sharing, and when you see most of the critics of this, is the mode of you selling, going to sell trade, or you're going to trade items. But then when the determination of the markup is at your side, or even if we sat and determined a markup, and you're looking at profit, first of all, you put in more, by the way, as a bank, as an Islamic bank, you put in more than actually what I put in as a person, in terms of looking around, confirming, due diligence basically, and all that. And then you have these regulatory requirements and capital requirements and all that. So the capitalistic nature of our country and the Western kind of could be really such a challenge. But like we said, let us not kill it. Let us watch. I think the Bible says, whatever is noble, whatever is true, think about such things. I'm not so sure. So it sounds good. It's noble. It's really attractive. But let us think about it.
Okay.
Yeah.
Lastly, Professor, with everything we have discussed, and you and I being lay in this Islamic banking, do you see any benefit for an ordinary Ugandan? We're talking about a farmer, we're talking about a Juakali, the ones who are in blue-collar jobs, but also the corporates that are in offices that are trying to really put money in insurance, get a difference there, put it in bonds, or get it into unit trusts and all these things. Do you see value addition with Islamic banking?
Getting into the economy?
Yes.
I think there is, because, Timothy, I think our economy is still small, and it is the same people being stressed with the same things. You know, if we are to keep our banks and our insurance companies afloat, all those people are targeting the small crop of people that are largely salary earners. So they come to you for insurance, they come to you. So we are very few people running around these things. So if, for example, as we started, if this enables more money to come into the market through the capital markets, that would be a good thing. So there's more money to play with or to work with. But also the fact that he talked about many people are not bankable. We observed that earlier. But he told us where the imams are even playing a role of encouraging people to go into banking. It doesn't matter whether it's Islamic banking, but at least they are there, as opposed to the past where they wouldn't go there because it contradicted their beliefs. So that's bringing more people into the economy, but also releasing more income into these financial institutions to work with. So I think that is a good thing. And I was very, very convinced until we came up to thinking that, well, banking is banking, whether it is Islamic or not. So I see the people who are not bankable continuing to struggle because they have nothing to bring them to the bank. And suddenly Islamic banking is not a charity, it is going to be a bank. But I don't know what is happening in Yumbe. Maybe in Yumbe they are operating differently and reaching out to the people. But you see, our economy, by having many people in informal sectors, or actually doing nothing, because I know in the village, if a peasant farmer goes and farms what they can eat, you wonder what to do about that. And you see how they've tried to give them PDM cash. By the time it reaches home, more than a half has been spent, either on alcohol or on other things like that. But what I believe and hope is that when more money comes into the Chiseka boys, into the informal sector person, the 1 million, the 5 million, the 10 million, the 50 million, those people will be able to lift some people. At least with your small business, you'll employ 1 or 2 people, even if you are just making bricks. So I think this will sort of get more people. Maybe that is the way the people who are not yet in the banking sector can also be brought on board. So we applaud the fact that they are being intentional at going after those people who are not there, either because of their belief or because of exclusion. So it's a form of financial inclusivity. But that's where now, as they say, the spreadsheet has to be followed by, I hope, the financial advisor in the bank to say, how are you doing? Why did you make a loss in this month? It's maybe you relaxed. So if we support you here, can you improve? So we hope that with this support, which is actually the support we really lack when we get loans. You get your loan and go. But this, in a way, with the spreadsheet being kept, I don't know how it will be done, but I think they will be following up the people. We are doing it together, losses and...
Your normal accountant won't manage that spreadsheet. You need training also.
No, yeah, but at least there will be someone, because
Yes.
as of now, there has not been anyone. So you take the money, before you realize the bank is saying you're due for paying something, and then you don't have it, then you do that. So we hope that if this expert accountant can keep that spreadsheet, then probably, it's like how you do projects. If you don't have a strong M&E, you'll fail even if you're the best academic.
Yes.
So this will help. And I hope that that will then make businesses successful. They will see their 5th, their 10th birthday. And as they grow, they'll bring other people on board. So I'm hopeful that it's going to do that. But the major excitement is the whole aspect of inclusivity, the intentionality around inclusivity. And although it's just the imam talking about it to get Seka boys on board, you are in a way recruiting the imam to be a promoter of finances. And that's what makes economies grow. So, but I still pray and hope that you can have a product for maybe not 1 million, but 500 for small people in the villages. There are many youth there with ideas, raising one goat and whatever. So they may not even know how to speak English. They may not be able to make a spreadsheet. But can you do something through another institution? Maybe your microfinance is up there. But imagine, because you know, this has been imagined as a response to Western banking systems. So I imagine the people who imagine this can imagine something. Yeah, the human mind, it has no end.
I'm going to ask, I'll give each of you 2 minutes to give your closing remarks, but let me read these 2 messages so that Dr. Aluja can respond to some of them. I'm Alex CPA. I'm doing this paper on AFM. I want to ask Dr. Sulaiman, if you do not have your stand on banks there, you want to operate under conventional banks. How will these banks, with partly some products, be mere? Won't it be partly mere change of names there? Lease for conventional banks, don't these things confuse the clients and the same banks? And isn't this going to be a phase out and to leave one to take over? Another question, Islamic banking works well in Islamic countries and pure Muslims. Now, how are you going to accommodate people who are interested in products and yet you do not believe in the Sharia law? And Uganda being a multi-religious country, we have small percentage of Muslims. I'm a banker as well, and I have picked interest in the Islamic financing. So Dr. Sulaiman needs to help me and sensitize the public about this. Personally, I think this will work. The only challenge is the regulation and practice there. Man all the way from talking about CPA here. The last one I will read, Islamic banking is going to enhance financial inclusion in the country. My 20 years working period, I've never contracted a loan from conventional banks, precisely because the interest is a component. This does not mean there's never been the need for capital to modest investment. Farouk from Masaka here. Someone else says, how do I upgrade my 20 acres of a farm if I want money? I'll start with the Professor, Honorable, Council Andrew, and lastly, Dr. Ruja. Your closing remarks.
My closing remarks is just to say, I think lack of capital is a great challenge in this country. And financial exclusion has been a great challenge in this country. So any attempts at financial inclusion, intentional financial inclusion, are welcome. But let us be open, let us be sincere, let us not hide behind big technical words and the small print. And let us be intentional at getting everybody on board.
Thank you, Professor. Honorable Mara.
Yeah, thanks, Timothy. I think Parliament and the President, we have done our work. We have put in the legislation in place. The players now should come into the market. I'm happy new bankers come. And also, hopefully, the kind of the capital movement will happen from the Islamic world into Uganda, and also from our Muslim friends who have not been going to the banks to borrow money. Now they have an opportunity where there is products available being governed by Sharia principles. We look forward to see whether this is more of about talks than action. So, Doctor, over to you. You the active players. Thank you.
Councillor Andrew.
Thank you so much, Timothy. Maybe for this I'll speak to the youth and the people down there. Indeed, in matters of finance, we need discipline. And some of the cores of Islamic finance is financial discipline. So let us embrace this as one of the ways through which we can improve our financial discipline, how we use the money, where we allocate the money, the financial honesty, as well as stability for our businesses. These products will be good. You will be working with the bank to make sure that everything moves on well. The lying about losses and fictitious books and all that should really be limited. And that is one of the ways that we should
Limited or not there at all.
That we develop as the country. It really begins with us as the youth, as the young people with a small business of 20,000. Keep your records very clear, be transparent, and then this is going to be one of the things that can get us into really financial prosperity.
Thank you very much. Lastly, Dr. Luja.
Thank you, Timothy and the viewers. Really, I think we should take an example from our government, from the president, the flexibility, the openness. And this is a global trend, which you cannot take back. By the way, Uganda has just come maybe late. The issue was adopted long time ago. So this is a global trend, which is not going anywhere. If it is implemented in Italy, I quoted what the Vatican said about it. There is no question that really it can add value to this economy. And maybe the problem we still have, and I think this one we shall work on it as we put our foot there, there is still an issue of misconceptions about Islamic banking. But this one, please, in this just 2 hours we have had here, we cannot talk about everything, the markup. This is a discipline. Islamic banking is a discipline which is studied at certificate level, diploma level, master's level, PhD level. So we cannot exhaust everything just in 2 hours. We just accept that. Let's embrace it. Let's start. And by the way, I just want to end with just a comfort, especially to the non-Muslims, that the extent of Sharia which is going to be implemented in Islamic banking is only the commercial transactions. So people should not be scared. We have 25 commercial banks, and not everyone is banking with all of them. By the way, now 26. Not every Ugandan is banking with 26 commercial banks. This is banking. This is a bank which is going to accommodate a big segment of the population that government has looked at, that has been financially excluded. Please, if you, this is business. If you see sense in it, open an account. But believe you me, there is much is going to add to our economy, and it is about commercial transaction, not Islamizing the state, not bring our state into Sharia law.
Thank you very much. Gentlemen and lady, thank you very much. I also want to thank the production team and you who has been viewing us from 10 to midnight now. We'll end with this quote: great minds discuss ideas. Good morning.